And this is our first Rooted in Sports Tuesday.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And what a blessing it is after an incredible week one of NFL
Ooh-wee.
football. I mean,
That's an understatement.
crazy, crazy
That is a
endings, crazy
freaking under.
upsets. Like, legit, bro.
Oh man, yeah. Like I said, that is a big recap. But once again, obviously to remind anybody that may have forgotten, that is the sole reason we moved to Tuesdays. We're definitely all about consistency, but in light of the NFL season and having that Monday night game, which was crazy last night, um,
Yeah.
we had to make that move to Tuesday so that way we make sure that we show every game some love, if that makes
Word,
sense.
word. And this is gonna be a real interesting episode. We're legit are gonna try to recap every game from this past weekend, and we're gonna try to give you our predictions for week two in the NFL. So we're gonna have a lot in this here. We legit gonna try to stick to this hour, but we're gonna have a lot. So y'all stick with us, man, and we're
Hmm.
gonna go and hit it hard, man. Real excited, man. It was a phenomenal week of football. Great way to start the NFL season.
Oh yeah, great. Yeah, oh, yeah. Okay, so let's get into this trusty intro.
Let's go.
And just
And
like that,
just
we're
like
back.
that.
We are
Word.
back in action. So I guess I'll let you tell me, Swan. Like obviously before we jump into these week one recaps, like was this a fun week of football for you? I know for some
Bro.
people it was stressful. I won my fantasy game, so at least that worked out. But
Bro, you I think I showed you, bro. I won by the hair of my chinny,
it's Chetty
literally
Chip.
by 5/10 of a point. I literally won by 5/10 of a point. It was like
Five.
130.6 to like 130.1 or something.
Oh
Literally.
wow! And so obviously we got the rooted in sports community. So we went ahead and did our fantasy league. Who did you play?
Um Evan. I think I played Evan.
Um,
And yeah, by literally I think it was 134.6 to 134.1. Your boy Dalton Schultz got that catch at the end of the game,
and that's what and
and
that's
and
what kept you.
that's literally what put me over. Literally,
Oh man, nah, 100%. So okay, so
and we'll get
obviously,
to them later. I'm gonna let you take care of them.
oh yeah, that'll be exciting. But yeah, hope everybody did good in their fantasy. Pick 'em league squares. I won $60 on squares on the Chargers Raiders game. So I felt like I felt like I did something special. But
As you should, as you should.
right, any I don't care if I win $5, I'm all for it.
Right, right.
But let's jump into let's really dive into week one, Swan. Um, now I want to let you take this one because I've talked a good bit about this Buffalo LA game. I actually talked about it on the break room breakdown
Okay.
with JD and CeeLo. So I'm interested to hear what your thoughts are on this game. Obviously, we thought it was going to be like a Super Bowl preview. Um, Rams won it last year, and in Buffalo, everybody kind of came into the season feeling like Buffalo was the best team. What do you think transpired in that game, and what were some of your thoughts? What think some things that crossed your mind as you was watching it?
I think Buffalo came out and showed why they are a lot of analysts' favorite to get to and win the Super Bowl out of the AFC. Um, Von Miller made an instant impact. And for anyone who might have thought that maybe he was on his last leg or maybe he had kind of lost a step, I think he showed last Thursday that not only has he came into this season healthy, but he's going to pay some real dividends for a defense who, if I'm not mistaken, they were the number one scoring defense last year, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
So to add a guy like Von Miller to that mix who can come in and get a pass rush, I mean, and we know what their secondary can do. They still waiting on Trey White to get back. Excuse me. So only you can only see improvement on that end. Josh Allen was Josh Allen. Made a couple mistakes early, but you can see once he knocked the rust off, it was on and popping. Stephon Diggs was having his way with Jalen Ramsey, which was a little surprising, but I think he caught 6 balls and about 140 some odd yards against Jalen Ramsey. So I mean the Buffalo Bills, they looked phenomenal. Now, if there is one improvement I would like to see with them, once again, I think I would like to see them get a more consistent running game.
You can't keep running your quarterback like that. That's ridiculous.
You cannot. And he led them in rushing for the game. The kid they drafted, I can't think his name, Dalvin Cook's brother. His first touch, he fumbled, and you ain't see him at all. You ain't see him after that. You know what I'm saying? They went back to Moss and to Singletary. So if there is any room for improvement for Buffalo, it'll probably be there. As far as the Rams go, I'm a little surprised to see them come out with such a lackluster effort. Obviously, when your quarterback throws 3 turnovers, I mean, that's not going to be a good help to your team regardless. And then defensively, Buffalo was kind of having their way with them. You know, I think Aaron Donald might have got a sack, but I didn't really see a lot of flash from him. Overall, I didn't see them get a ton of pressure on Josh Allen. Like I said, Jalen Ramsey really didn't have his best game. And so coming out on a Thursday night, you get your rings, banners going up, primetime game, first game of the NFL season. I'm really a little surprised to see them come out with such a lackluster effort. But with that being said, I'm not worried about it. Obviously, Sean McVay is one of the best coaches in the league, and I think they'll get things turned around. So, I mean, I'm not stressed out about them, but Buffalo, what I came away with from that game was that Buffalo is a legit Super Bowl contender, as we thought.
And I will say this about the Rams: I think they'll figure it out. For the most part, I think they're too talented not to, and Sean McVay's too smart of a coach to not put something together and kind of right the ship.
My stress level for them is literally at a 1. I have no worries about them. Seriously.
Only thing I will say before we move on to the next team, that offensive line will be a problem in the NFC because there are a lot of good pass rushing units, and you know, even if they're talented enough to beat some of these teams, you already got Matthew Stafford with that elbow issue. Do you really want to see him get banged up and smacked around by some of these elite pass rushers? Not only in the National Football League, but specifically in the NFC. So in their division, right? Because they got a lot of good pass rushers in their division. So it could be tough if they don't figure out a way to kind of stymie that.
And they picked up Allen Robinson because obviously they haven't worked out a deal with OBJ yet, and OBJ is still recovering from injury. But Allen Robinson was virtually a no-show. It was really the Cooper Kupp show, and no other receiver really showed up for them. So that's something to keep an eye on. And Cam Akers. Keep an eye on that as well.
Right. Correct.
How about we jump to the Eagles-Lions game? This was a game, crazy enough, that I actually watched the majority of. The Eagles did end up holding on, actually, 38-35. What did you see here? What was your takeaway from this game?
Well, I'll say this: both teams showed me a lot of what I wanted to see from them. It was a tough blue collar game. Both teams were running the football at a very high clip. Especially when you look at Detroit, you're really starting to see them develop into what they can be. That offensive line is actually one of the best in the league. Many people don't know that.
It is. Watching that game, they were having their way with a very good Eagles defensive front.
Exactly. And they were moving guys around. DeAndre Swift looked like he was having his coming out party, and then he had his backup Jamal Williams, who was effective as well. Now on the Eagles side, I would say that obviously we knew that they can run the ball. They were the number 1 rushing team in the NFL last year, but I still have questions about what they can be in the passing game. Obviously, A.J. Brown is a freak, so he went off and he showed why they paid him that $100 million.
10 for 155.
10 for 150, exactly. So he was pretty much borderline unstoppable. But you still kind of see some inconsistency and some hesitation on certain throws from Jalen Hurts. And you're still wondering if he truly has gotten to the point to where he can get everybody involved because he has a lot of weapons. So I have questions as far as what the passing game will be. That offensive line is still great. And defensively, I guess we'll see in the coming weeks what they're really about because they were supposed to be this top 3, top 5 unit, right? With all these weapons, corners, safeties, linebackers. And obviously last week against Detroit, they didn't look like that. Now, Detroit, to me, they have nowhere to go but up because now you have a running game. You realize you have an offensive line now. Defense looks a little bit more feisty. That rookie linebacker, Malcolm Rodriguez, had a pretty great game for a rookie. So for them, it's just getting the passing game more going and see if they can benefit off that strong running game. Get J.J. Shark involved. Get Amon St. Brown involved. Get T.J. Hockenson involved. If they can get the passing game going, you may see them win a few more games this year. So that's pretty much what I saw in that game. It was some good and bad on both sides. Obviously, the Eagles are the better team, but the Lions showed you enough to where you would root on them. I'm actually, well, we'll talk about that later. I actually think the Lions are going to win a game here pretty soon.
The Detroit Lions are definitely heading in the right direction. Like looking at that game, I just feel like, well, A, they couldn't quite get the stop that they needed, but then B, I just feel like they literally just have to learn how to win, learn how to either make a winning play or not make a mistake to cost them the game. Because that team is they're gonna fight, man. DeAndre Swift went for 144. I mean, he averaged almost 10 yards a carry. I mean, DeAndre Swift, phenomenal. You mentioned Jamal Williams, who had 2 tubs on the day. I mean, this team's definitely on the up and up. I did like what I seen from Philly's offense. So, yeah, man, Detroit just have to really just try to find a way to win.
So look, so how about I give you a game? So how about this New Orleans Atlanta game? That was a fun game for me to watch, by the way. That was probably one of my favorite games the whole day. So what were your thoughts on that one?
You know what? For a minute, I actually thought Atlanta was gonna pull it off, and then I remembered that we're talking about the Atlanta Falcons. You know, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, they were up 2 scores in the fourth quarter.
They sure were.
And they allowed a talented New Orleans Saints team to come back. It was great to see Michael Thomas come back after almost 2 years. And you can really kind of see in that game in the fourth quarter, they went to kind of a little bit of a hurry-up offense, and they kind of made it a point to get Michael Thomas involved, especially in the red zone. He only had 5 for about 55 or so yards.
But he had 2 touchdowns.
5 for 57, but he had 2 touchdowns out around in the red zone. So, and I think for him personally, that's really big for him to get out there and to score and to kind of get knocked around. And just for his own psyche to know, like, hey, I'm still that guy. You know, when I'm healthy, I'm still one of the best receivers in this game. Alvin Kamara didn't necessarily have an Alvin Kamara game.
No, he didn't.
So that may be a little something to kind of look out for. Jameis Winston, 269, 2 tubs. I mean, obviously,
started slow.
Asking him. He did. Yeah. Picked it up. Like I said, they got kind of to the hurry up, and he kind of was able to pick it up. I think with them, though, they're literally just asking him not to lose the game. They got the talent there. You know what I'm saying? If he can just make 1 or 2 throws a game, not lose the game, the Saints are going to be a 11-12 win team with their defense. There's no reason why they shouldn't be 11-12 win team. As for Atlanta, I mean, I think that they have to take solace in the fact that they really hung in there and probably should have won this game against what is going to be a playoff team. You know what, man? It's I tell you what, man, Cordero Patterson, man, like
the transformation is complete.
Man, seriously. Like, he's a legit, I mean, I want to call him a running back. But the fact that he still has like those wide receiver tools he's a real, as you like to say, he's a real Swiss Army knife.
He is.
And he legit paid dividends for him. The rookie Drake London didn't have a bad game at all. 5 for 74. I really like to see them get Kyle Pitts involved a little more.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know.
It almost hurt.
Jacko and Hyde, you know.
It almost hurt fantasy. So trust me, I get you.
In another league, I have Kyle Pitts in it, and it kind of hurt me too. I got smacked in my other league, but yeah, I mean, I think they have to take solace in the fact that they were playing tough and they were able to hang around with this team. AJ Terrell had a few struggles in this game, but I'm sure he'll bounce back. I think this is for them. They have to look at this as a stepping stone that, you know, hey, we are capable of playing tough and hanging around. You know, hey, we are a little devoid of talent, but, you know, we're going to come out here and we're going to give teams all we got. And if you're a Falcons fan, you have to be content with that.
Oh, yeah. Especially looking at that offensive core that they have. Granted, I liked Marcus Mariota's confidence that we won that game in just 3 drives. Hey, New
Orleans, yeah.
But you know what I said about New Orleans? They have so much talent. It was only a matter of time before it reared its head, and it did. It finally came together, despite the inconsistencies of Jameis Winston early on. But yeah, going back to Atlanta, they have that offensive core of Cordero Patterson, Kyle Pitts, and Drake London, and you still got Brian Edwards, and they got a lot to work with. So, I mean, God damn it, if Marcus Mariota can't get it done, I'm excited to see who they draft next year, or if they decide to give it to Desmond Ridder. They have a bright future ahead of them.
They do.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm gonna give you what was a really fun game to watch Sunday.
Throw it at me.
How about this Steelers-Bengals game, man?
Ooh.
The Steelers, literally at the end of the overtime period, they were after a slew of special teams blunders. They were finally able to hold on and get that game-winning field goal and beat the Bengals 23-20. But it's a lot to unpack in that game, though. So what did you see there?
Okay, well, I'll start with this. That win, obviously, it was sloppy on both ends, both the Steelers and the Bengals. The Bengals were favored by many. Mm-hmm. But that win is a testament to who Mike Tomlin is as a coach. Mm-hmm. It's living proof, and there's another game week that proved that as well. That a great coach can take a roster with mediocre talent, even if it's on one side of the ball, and win football games. Yeah. They still got the great defensive pieces. Obviously, we know TJ Watt got hurt and could be out for a little bit of time, but I mean, man, they made plays in secondary. I want to say they sacked Joe Burrow about 5 to 6 times. So they put an immense amount of pressure on him. And Mitch, on the offensive side, Mitch wasn't superb, or he wasn't,
sacked him 7 times.
Exactly. So they definitely got to him. But offensively, they didn't do too much. It's not like Najee Harris had a great game. It's not like Mitchell Trubisky had a great game. They just really weathered the storm, and they just outlasted a Bengals team that played very sloppy. Oh, and those protection issues continue, right? Yeah. Despite the guys they brought in. I mean, I've seen people one of the sack that TJ Watt had. I mean, he, if I'm not mistaken, put La'el Collins on his butt, snatched him aside, and put him on his butt. So that's something they're going to have to continue to fix early on. Joe Burrow obviously had a buffet of turnovers and not only interceptions and fumbles, and it just wasn't good. But I think it was just a typical divisional matchup between two teams. Mm-hmm. AFC North game. It's always going to be sloppy. It's going to be defense. Both defenses made plays, and then both teams played sloppy and really interesting. I will ask: Is the Evan McPherson magic gone? Was that just a 1-year thing? Because he struggled. He didn't look like the same confident guy. And I think his first kick he missed was like a 30-yarder, right? 29, 30-yarder. So there was a little yip action there, but outside of that, it was just a typical AFC North matchup. I will give kudos to one guy for Pittsburgh. I don't know if he's been on anybody's radar the past year and a half. Alex Highsmith is coming. He's kind of He said it every year. If you look at his statistics, every year he's gotten better. And it looks like this year he had 2 to 3 sacks yesterday or Sunday, and it's very realistic that he's a double-digit sack guy this year in that system. So that's the guy I'm looking at that I'm impressed by, and hopefully he can help them weather the storm while TJ Watt is hurt.
Man, if you didn't see this game, I mean, it was one of those games that legit had you on the edge of your seats. The Bengals, Burrow threw 4 turnovers, and if I'm not mistaken, he lost a fumble. So 5 total turnovers. And yet they were, not only did they come back, but they had an opportunity to win the game. One of McPherson's kicks, no, I think it was Boswell that hit the crossbar. But anyway, they had a chance to win the game. So that should also kind of show you just how talented this Bengals team is.
Let's not forget about the missed challenge by Zach Taylor. If he challenges that Jamar Chase catch on the sideline, that's a touchdown. But that's a little negligence on his side. So it was a lot of blunders. It was very sloppy, not just from a player standpoint, but from a coaching standpoint as well.
Yeah, and then look out, Pittsburgh. TJ Watt probably miss about 6 weeks. Harris also got. I always want to Najee Harris. I always want to call him like Nico or something.
Najee
Harris got hurt. They had their share of injuries in that game, so just something to keep an eye on for those Pittsburgh Steelers.
But apparently he might play next week, so that's what he's saying. He might be okay.
Good news.
So we'll see what happens with that. Okay, I'm gonna throw you a game. Okay. Cleveland, Carolina. Give it to me. What you got?
Well, it looked like, early on, Baker Mayfield and his Carolina Panther team, they were struggling. Round about mid-third quarter into the fourth, you seen the Cleveland Browns make a couple defensive blunders, and you looked up, and Carolina had took the lead. I think early on, Baker Mayfield he had a lot of emotions, a lot of adrenaline running through him, playing against his former team, and I just think he was kind of missing throws early on. He just wasn't. Not that I think Baker Mayfield is just this great quarterback, but he's better than what he showed on Sunday. He ended up with not terrible. He ended up with 235. He did throw a tub and an interception. As for the Cleveland Browns, man, I don't know, man. I think that they were lucky to really get this win. Jacoby Brissett, who's a quarterback that I did kind of like, who I thought could at least keep him stabilized. He didn't look too great to me. Luckily, I think you can argue. Matter of fact, I'm going to say it. I think they have the best running back duo in the league. Nick Chubb went for 141. Kareem Hunt had a rushing touchdown and a receiving touchdown.
Right.
I mean, you got 2 studs back there, and I really think that's what you're going to see a lot of from Cleveland moving forward. It's going to be a lot of running the ball, a lot of trying to get Kareem Hunt the ball out in space. I think Amari Cooper's numbers are going to drastically fall, and I think it has a lot to do with the fact that they won't necessarily be looking to get Jacoby Brissett slinging it all around like that. With that being said, I mean, running the ball, defense is still capable. I think Myles Garrett had 2 sacks. Yeah, he had 2 sacks on the day. Myles Garrett was Myles Garrett.
Defensive player, by the way, I think he's a legit defensive player of the year front runner this year. Like, I really think he can win it this year. Yeah.
Yeah, your boy Micah, who I'll let you get to in a minute.
Right.
But yeah, man, I mean, I think the Cleveland Browns are really lucky to get away with this win. But week 1, you see some things that you got to clean up. A win is a win.
Yeah, you got to take it for what it is. Once again, I don't know how much they can keep up this formula with the team that they have and the division and the conference that they're in. So that's going to be tough in itself. But they got the running game. They still got a probably, arguably, when healthy, the best offensive line in the game, and they have a young defense that with guys that are really probably haven't even scratched the surface of what they can be, like a Grant Delpit and a Newsome and a Ward, and Myles Garrett is
my
amongst
boy
the
Owusu
Jeremiah Wusu
out of Notre Dame. Okay,
out of Notre Dame. Yeah, they got some studs there. So, we'll see if they can continue to build. But it's going to say that defense is going to have to do a lot to make it. Because honestly, when you're watching, Carolina was winning that game down the stretch. But there were a few times where
took it over,
yeah, they came back and took it over. And there were a couple of drives where Carolina was moving the football. But Myles Garrett, I mean, is just special. So he takes over the game and gets a sack fumble. He just being special and just changing the game on his own. So having players like that definitely help you turn the tide. When looking at Carolina, I do still have some concerns about Christian McCaffrey. He flashed, but he didn't look the same. So I want to see how that transpires if he gets his feet under him within the next few weeks. I know he didn't play very much in the preseason if he didn't play at all. So that's something to monitor. But I was encouraged. One thing I will say, even though Baker Mayfield had his ups and downs, he did something that Sam Darnold wasn't able to do. He unlocked Robbie Anderson. And if they can get Robbie Anderson going in that offense as a deep threat, that'll open up so much more underneath. And that'll give DJ Moore and was it Terrace Marshall, like give those guys so many opportunities.
A lot of room to operate.
Exactly. So once again, it was some good. I'm encouraged by what I've seen out of Carolina. They do. I won't hold it against them too bad because it's Cleveland, and Cleveland will probably run on anybody. But they will have to monitor that, make sure that they're more disciplined with their gaps and stopping the run, because I know that's something that they struggled with last year. So if they can kind of fix some things on that end, you could possibly once again see them get off and win some football games. I think Carolina is a good football team. I don't think that they're going to be like I don't think they're the 6-win team. I think they can win 9+ games, but they have to get it done.
I think at a ceiling, they could sneak in and get that last wild card spot in the playoffs. I wouldn't be surprised if that happened.
Right, exactly. They can.
Let's see. You know what? I'm gonna throw this Patriots Dolphins game at you. This is a game the Dolphins came out on top 20-7. I have so much I can say about Bill Belichick, but and how I feel about this whole coordinator situation. But I'm gonna go ahead and throw it to you, man. What did you think about this game?
Well, I'll say this: the first question I asked, because obviously we seen that Miami won 20-7. The question I asked at the end of this game was, is Miami good or is New England just bad right now?
And that's a great question to ask.
Because even though Miami showed some things, it was also a lot of times that New England shot themselves in the foot. They had times where they were moving the ball through the air and on the ground. And it wasn't like Tua just, lit the world on fire. He made a few throws and stuff like that. And obviously having a Jalen Waddle and a Tyreek Hill kind of help you out and make you look a little better than what you really are. But looking at New England, I'll be honest, man. Look, I don't see it. Usually I can conjure up something, but I don't see the vision of what they're trying to build offensively. I just haven't caught on to it.
I'm not sure they see the vision. I'm not sure they have a vision.
Exactly. So that's what scares me. It's not that I think Mac Jones is a bad quarterback, because I think Mac Jones is a good quarterback, and he can pretty much make all the throws. But you have to give him something that makes sense. But I don't. It just doesn't look like there's any type of foundation of a system. If they have it doesn't look like they're strong at any one thing. They didn't look great running the ball, and they didn't look great throwing the football. I mean, maybe you can say protection was okay. I don't know, but it's a really questionable. I'm very interested on what I'm going to see in the coming weeks from the New England Patriots. Now on the Dolphins side, I will say their defense still looks formidable. That will win them some games. They have a trio of really good pass rushers. The kid Jalen, who they drafted out of Miami last year, who's going into a second year. I forgot his last name, first name Jalen. They picked up Melvin Ingram in free agency, and then they also have Emmanuel Agba, who's been there the last 2 years, and he's been a pretty above average pass rusher, anywhere between 8 to 9.5 sacks, and a pretty consistent run defender as well. And they still got Jerome Baker, who's a phenomenal blitzer. So they're doing some good things on defense that's going to keep them in games. But I still have questions about what the ceiling of this offense is. They still didn't look impressive running the football. So it's not like the system is clearly probably a little bit different than what what Kyle Shanahan is running in San Francisco. It looks a little bit more pass oriented, a little bit more old school West Coast, right? More balanced. So I want to see what Mike McDaniel kind of has in play for what he wants this offense to evolve into. And what is your vision as far as really unleashing Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill? Because even though they made plays, you kind of got the feeling that they made plays because they're just so much talented guys, not because from an offensive standpoint they were put in the best position to be successful.
And I mean, I think, man, Bill Belichick, when you got a guy who's won 6 rings, a coach who's won 6 rings, man, I think you got a case where Bill Belichick is just really getting full of himself, because he really needs to figure something out and come to some sort of understanding about, hey, this is going to be my offensive coordinator, this is going to be my play caller, and we're going to ride with this, because I think that they're really in danger of possibly ruining or wrecking a young career in Matt Jones if they don't get this situation figured out.
I agree. Once again, very arrogant of him not finding an offensive guy. I was hoping it would have been Bill O'Brien. I just knew Bill O'Brien was coming back to me, and that didn't happen. So, I mean, hell, time would tell. Maybe it's going to take a bad season for him to really realize that, or a terrible season to humble himself. And hey, maybe I might need to modernize things a little much. I know he's been setting his ways for quite some time. But
and I think that'll be interesting. And if you look up and they're a 3, 4, 5 win team, it's going to be an interesting offseason in New England, because I think dare I say Robert Kraft is going to put the pressure on.
Yeah, and one major thing to look at is this transition was easier in years past because they've always had those veteran guys that they could build the system around. They don't have that now. They still got Devin McCourty, at safety, but Dante Hightower is gone. They lost what's his name? Was it Kyle Van plays for the Chargers right now? I don't know. I forget his name. They got Matthew Judon, right? Who's like their Swiss Army knife, like their Mike Vrabel or Rob Ninkovich type of player. But for the most part, they don't have that veteran talent, that veteran guy that can really rally and pull everybody together. And that's what's making this transition so tough. So you're dealing with a lot of young kids and guys that came from other systems, other programs, and you're trying to you're trying to still establish your strong New England Patriot winning culture, but that's going to be very tough with guys that honestly aren't even really establishing it yet. So that's what I looked at from that game. I'm not sure what I'm going to get from either teams. Miami won 20-7. They could go out next week against Baltimore and get blown the hell out. Who knows?
And I wouldn't be surprised. All right, who you got for me?
Okay. Let's talk Indy Houston.
Well, first of all, so the game ended in a tie, 2020 tie. Right. I think if you're the Colts, you're extremely disappointed. Houston had jumped all over them, and in fact, at one point they were up. I think they were up like 20-3 going into the fourth quarter before the Colts actually went and made a run, scored 17 in the fourth quarter, and then obviously no one scored in the overtime period. I think if you're the coach, you have to be disappointed with this output, because this is a Houston Texan team who many people, including myself, predict to probably have the worst record in the league and probably get the number 1 pick next year.
Mhm.
And for you to go out there with your big signing with Matt Ryan, who, I mean, wasn't terrible. The numbers at the end of the day looked better than he probably actually truly played.
He looked very how can I say it? Like he's still trying to connect with. I mean, obviously he had the big game with Michael Pittman, but he
Mm-hmm.
really couldn't get on schedule with any of his other receivers.
He couldn't. He couldn't. Obviously, Jonathan Taylor is going to be Jonathan Taylor. He goes for 161, and I think you moving forward, I think you're really going to see just a huge dose of him, and then maybe just them allowing Matt Ryan to make throws when applicable, because he can still do that. But I
Mhm.
mean, Matt Ryan, like I said, he ended up with 352. He had a tub and an interception, but those numbers really kind of similar to and I know another game we'll talk about, kind of similar to Russell Wilson last night. The numbers look a lot better than
Better
what
than
you
what
probably
they
seen
actually
with the eye test.
exactly.
So
I agree.
I think moving forward for them, they truly got some things to figure out. And then with this Texans team, once again, as we discussed in the offseason, if you didn't know the Texans record and you just watched them play,
You
you
think they're
would
a good
think they
football team,
were you would think they were a heck of a football team, because
right?
they're gonna go out there and they're gonna play hard. I gotta give credit where it's due. I obviously I have a little bit of an affinity with Lovie Smith.
Smith,
However,
right?
I will be honest, I didn't think, and nothing against him as a black man. I'm excited that he did get the job, and I am rooting for him to be successful. But with that being said, I do think there were better candidates and better black candidates out there than for him to get that job. But I got to give credit where it's due. He had these guys ready to play yesterday. Davis Mills threw for 240 and 2 tubs. Mr. Reliable Brandon Cooks 7 for 82. OJ Howard, and OJ Howard sighting. The man had 2 tubs, and that could be interesting because we've both been critical of him and the
Yeah,
expectations that we had for him coming out of Alabama, and then to see him not quite live up to it yet. But hey, who knows? Maybe a change of scenery was just what he needed. So I think the Texans have to be really, although it ended in a tie, I think they almost have to look at it like a win for them, because I mean they weren't favored in this game. They're another team who's kind of devoid of talent, but they hung in there and they really controlled this game for
they
the
did.
majority of the game.
They did. Yeah. And if Davis Mills, and I'll say this, since you mentioned Davis Mills, he played good at times. I'm still questioning whether he's gonna be, and I'm sure that franchise is he gonna be our
Mm-hmm.
guy? He didn't. If I'm not mistaken, he didn't complete a pass in the fourth quarter, right? So there's still some inconsistency there, and he wasn't able to at times not able to get his best playmaker involved, which is Brandon Cooks. I mean, I think Brandon Cooks had one catch for or 2 or 3 catches for 73 yards for like 2 quarters of the 2.5 quarters of
Yeah.
the game. So um, there are some things they're going to have to figure out offensively. I like you mentioned OJ Howard. It could be an emergency. What better a place to go to than a team that needs receiving help, and you're gonna
Mm-hmm.
you
That
go
he's gonna
in,
see
walk
some opportunities.
exactly to get the green light. So good for him. So you're right. I agree with everything you're saying. Win for them, and obviously shame on the Colts, who some people consider like dark horse Super Bowl candidates.
Word. Let's go to a team in your favorite division. Let's do Washington Commanders and Jacksonville Jaguars. The
This was a fun
Commanders,
game.
it was. The Commanders got a score late and they were able to come on out on top 28-22. Carson Wentz didn't look bad. He didn't look bad. What do you think about this game?
Well, once again, like I just said, it was one of the funnest games to watch, mainly because I was excited to see what Jacksonville was going to look like.
Mm-hmm.
Which for the most part, I was impressed by the potential that they have. They're young and they're dripping with potential, but they're very inconsistent right now. And I mean everybody. I'm still waiting, and this is a lesson to anybody who is crazy about these quarterbacks in college and stuff like that. We have yet to see Trevor Lawrence kind of settle into himself and be the quarterback that people think he could become or he was coming out of college. There were times where he looked very average. He looked hesitant making some of these throws, but there were times where he was on key. Christian Kirk, who we say is overpaid, had a really
Had
good
a
game.
really yep.
Had well over 100 yards.
6 for 117.
6 for 117. ETN, who they drafted out of Clemson with Trevor Lawrence, showed he struggled mightily. He dropped a surefire touchdown that probably could have won them the game, and he also had a crucial fumble. So they went to James Robinson a little later in the game and let him get going, and that's what was able to kind of help them turn the tide. So some inconsistencies on offense. Defensively, they have some great things going, and I say this time and time again, I love to get proven wrong, and I will say this, and obviously we still got some more. We got some more football to go, but Trayvon Walker looks like the real deal.
Mm-hmm.
And to tell you the truth, it wasn't the sack. The sack was impressive.
It was
that interception was impressive. That interception was pure instinct, pure playmaking ability. Because his instinctually, his body just told him to come out of his pass rush and jump back and catch that interception. And so that I was really impressed by that. But defensively as a whole, they're a feisty unit. They just have to really kind of get fine-tune some things. Trayvon Walker and Devin Lloyd both played very well. Now, looking at the Washington side, this is probably the most receiver talent that Washington's had in a long time with Curtis Samuel, Terry McLaurin. Oh, and that kid, Jahan Dotson, was a slam dunk. He was everything. It's funny. I like when
two TDs yesterday.
2 TDs. I love, you know me, I'm a big draft. I love the draft. I love reading a guy's scouting report, and he's exactly as he's advertised. And one thing they said about Jahan Dotson coming I want to say he played at Penn State, right?
Penn State. Mm-hmm.
Was he had elite ball tracking skills, and you saw that on Sunday. I know he had that touchdown where Carson Wentz dropped that right in the breadbasket, but he was able to track it and lay back and catch it as the defenders hovering over him, and it was just a really impressive play. Now, as far as Carson Wentz, I don't think I've seen a quarterback in some time walk this fine of a line of being a backup to being a star. Because he has times where he looks great, but he has times where he's god awful. Mm-hmm. And that's the maddening thing about Carson Wentz is, will he ever be able to pull it together and be that elite guy that people think that he can be? So it was a good game by them. I think they kind of snuck out a win. I think they beat an experienced Jacksonville team that had plenty of opportunities to finish them off. Mm-hmm. But if they play more experienced squads that are able to put them away, I mean, and especially if Carson Wentz has some of those untimely interceptions and meltdowns and, you taking sacks you have no business taking, that could spell bad for them later on down the line. But I would say overall they had a really good team win.
And you know what I'll say? I was a little surprised that they kind of opened it up for Carson Wentz. I was kind of expecting a kind of a heavy run game from Washington, and maybe Carson Wentz having somewhere between 22 to 27 attempts or so. The man had 27 completions on 41 attempts, so they really showed some trust in him and allow him to really kind of throw the ball. And it paid off for him. So interesting to see. I think we both picked Jacksonville to win this game, ironically.
I did. Yeah, I did. I definitely picked Jacksonville.
So it'll be interesting to see where they go from here, man. Who you got for me?
Ooh, okay. Tennessee, New York.
So here's a game, and I don't remember. I know you picked the Giants. I think I picked the Giants. I think did we both pick them? I know you did for sure. I know you did for sure. I don't remember who I went with in this game.
I knew this would be a great matchup.
It is. Daniel Jones, I mean, you know me. I've been told you he's not it for me. I would move on from him. But I mean, really pedestrian, 188, 2 tubs and an interception, really pedestrian. It did my heart So it gave my heart so much joy to see Saquon Barkley Sunday, man. I
He
mean,
looked good. He looked
he
good.
he really did, man. I know how you feel about him, how he's kind of boom or bust, but I think
He was boom.
he
He was
he he
boom.
was
He was
boom,
boom.
man. He had a couple, big plays. One long run, a couple big plays. I think he actually got the 2-point conversion. He converted the 2-point conversion to win the game on a second effort run because they really had him
Right.
stuffed in the backfield. He made a second effort and was able
Mm.
to get around and get into the end zone for the 2-point conversion. Shout out to Brian Dable on the road, getting this team a really, really solid win. And for even, having the guts to go ahead and go for that 2-point conversion. I mean, you're on the road. Why not?
This is going to be a
Shout out
different
to
Giants
Brian.
team today.
It is, man. I think that they kind of hit the jackpot with this coach, man. I think Brian Dable is really gonna do some good for him, really gonna turn it around for him. They need to figure some things out in the passing game because I mean they got the weapons. They still got Kenny Galladay there, who 2 for 22. They still got Sterling Shepard. They still got Kadarius Toney, who I like coming out of Florida. So I mean, they got the weapons there. They got some things that they really gonna have to figure out with the passing game. But nonetheless, it was a really good win for them on the road. As far as the Titans go, I mean, I think I already told you. I think they take a huge step back. I think they're maybe between a 7 to 9 win team. I think I told you, although they look pedestrian, I picked the Colts to win this division. I think that moving forward for this team, they're going to go with what they've been doing the last few years and maybe even more so now, and they're going to ride Derrick Henry. I mean,
which I think is a little unfair for him.
It is, but I mean, they really, Robert Woods, I know he's coming back off an injury. He had one catch for 13 yards. They ended up throwing the 2 touchdown passes that Tannehill did have were to the backup running back Hilliard. I mean, their leading pass catcher was Phillips, who 6 for 66 yards. I mean, I'm looking at this thing, and I mean, a lot of these guys, like I barely know who they are. The rookie Treylon Burks had 3 for 55. Didn't look bad. He had a big catch down the stretch for them, although they lost.
Right.
But I mean, they without AJ Brown, I mean, this wide receiver core is a little
they don't have a lead dog right now.
They don't. Yeah. It's pedestrian at best, which is going to put even more pressure on Derrick Henry, and thus why I think we'll see the drop off. I think that this game is a sign of things to come for this Tennessee Titan team.
Yeah, and we could say that it'll make them enter maybe a little bit of a soft rebuild. It's not all hope isn't lost, but they've lost a few good players. Remember, one thing to key in is they lost Harold Landry. He tore his ACL
right before the season started.
Right, and he's a Pro Bowl caliber edge guy, and very important to some of the things that they do defensively. And then obviously the AJ Brown loss was huge. They drafted Treylon Burks, but you can't always expect young receivers to come in and just be the head honcho. So it's going to take some time. Now, Mike Vrabel's the coach to help turn this thing around, but they're going to have to figure some stuff out quickly if they want to be a playoff team this year. I don't foresee that happening, but obviously we know Mike Vrabel isn't coaching for them he isn't coaching for next year. He's coaching for this year. That's what he's working on. So.
Oh yeah, and obviously, as we know, Jeffrey Simmons is a stud. 2
special.
sacks. I mean,
Kevin Byard, special, maybe the best safety in the league.
Man, like they still got a few pieces there, but I see a decline for them. Like you said, I like the term you used. They might be going into a soft rebuild. I like the term you used there.
Right.
Let's do Chiefs Cardinals. What you think about this game? Chiefs came out on top 44-21. Patrick Mahomes was amazing in this game. What you think?
Well, I said this. The only 2 teams this week that were as they were advertised to be were the Chiefs and the Bills. It's sickening because it's what a lot of pundits predicted. but that's what it was. And the Chiefs came out. They jumped on the Cardinals early. There was never a point where you felt like the Cardinals were going to get back in and win this game. It was a complete and utter domination. Andy Reid was in his fucking bag with this play calling. I was looking at some of the shit he was calling. I'm like, man, Andy Reid just acting a damn fool. And they just look calm. They look confident. They look well prepared. This looks like a team that I don't think they're eyeing anything less than a Super Bowl. They look that good. Yeah. And everybody knows the defensive improvements that they've had over the past year. Those have kind of carried over. So they're formidable on that side as well. So, I mean, it's really not much I can say about Kansas City. They've just essentially just are doing what a lot of people expected them to do. And this time they have a little bit more depth to do it. Now, as far as the Cardinals, one thing that, a lot of people have been speaking about this offseason is Kyler Murray, how's he been whining, and obviously got his new contract. But now it's put up or shut up time. You wanted a contract well before you ever deserved it. And now you're gonna get held to a different standard. And if you can't win or be competitive in games like this, or even just, like I said, even just be competitive, even just make it a game, right? He's faulting you if you don't have the team to beat the Kansas City right now. But to lose in the manner in which they lost, I mean, we could argue that the last two that Kyler played, they've been blown out in each of the last two games. So, and obviously, it's been all over social media, TikTok, that he was missing protections and he's missing reads and stuff like that, which would obviously bring to mind the study clause,
the stipulation.
So he's going to have to put his big boy pants on and lead. DeAndre Hopkins is not coming back for another 5 weeks. So you better figure it out. You better, find some way to put something together. If not, it's going to be a long ass year for Kyler Murray. So that's them from an offensive standpoint. Truth is, defensively, they're not good enough. They're not talented enough. They lost too much for defensively for them to be a major factor. JJ Watt didn't play week 1, but even then, he's been injury prone the last 3 years.
And he's not the same JJ Watt.
He's not the same JJ Watt.
They couldn't possibly be dependent on him to be a double-digit sack guy now. At this point in his career.
Exactly. It's asking a lot. You lose Jordan Hicks, who was a pretty damn good, solid linebacker. You lose Chandler Jones. I mean, they lost some really good pieces, So that's kind of where they're at. I could honestly see the Cardinals missing the playoffs. Based on
I think they will. I don't even think I think they will.
Yeah, the current makeup of their team, I don't see them as a playoff team. And, I hate to say it, I think they need to go ahead and declare that Cliff Kingsbury thing a failure. He just looks like a deer in headlights. Like he doesn't know what he's doing.
Another guy who didn't really deserve a job in the first
place.
He
didn't.
But it's neither here nor there.
He had some kind of dirt on somebody to get that job, but that's my thought on the Chiefs Cardinals game. Let's go Green Bay, Minnesota. What are your thoughts on that game?
Well, I think I picked Minnesota to win this division, and I feel really good about it. I think I told you this before. If Devontae Adams is the best wide receiver in the league, Justin Jefferson might be 1A. Like
1A or 1B?
Oh, 1B. Excuse me. He might be 1B. I mean, just unstoppable, bro. Like a freak of nature, bro. And the rapport him and Kirk Cousins have, man, they're gonna be a problem all season. They offensively they look good, man. Kirk Cousins, man, we know the issues that he's had in big games, man. But I gotta be honest, bro. He's about this close to making me a believer, bro. In all seriousness, bro. He's about this close to making me a believer.
You can,
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say you can win with Kirk Cousins. There are teams that would beg God for Kirk Cousins. He's a good quarterback.
You can 277, 2 TDs. He didn't turn the ball over. Dalvin Cook ran for 90 yards, caught a couple balls out the backfield. Justin Jefferson, just so you know, his stat line: 9 for 184 and 2 touchdowns. Man,
Completely unstoppable.
He was having his way. I was kind of wondering, looking at this game, for whatever Jair Alexander wasn't traveling with him for whatever reason.
He wasn't.
And so, I don't know what's up with that, but it was just something that kind of piqued my interest. The fact that the guy was killing you, and you think you want your best corner on him, but he just wasn't traveling with him for whatever reason. Mm-hmm. On the other side, I think I told you I hated that Aaron Rodgers was so critical of these wide receivers publicly during the preseason. Mm-hmm. But with that being said, I see why. I mean, Christian Watson, I think it was the first or second play of the game, ball right in his lap. He's gonna hit his head on the goalpost. He drops it, and you can just see it was almost like the Green Bay Packers lost the game right then. It was almost like Aaron Rodgers was just like, you know what, man, I can't do this, And I mean, I understand, he as far as his receivers go, bad, he is a little, a void of talent. But I mean, hey, that's something they're gonna have to work through. With that being said, though, I still think that they'll push for a playoff spot. Like I said, I do think the Vikings will win the division, but I do see the Packers still being around a 9 or 10 win team. If you're a Packer fan, as he said before, RELAX, relax. I mean, it is, at the end of the day, it is Aaron Rodgers. They will figure some things out. If you're looking for another 13-4 season, 12-5 season from them, that's not what you're going to get this year. No. They are going to really, really, really miss Davante Adams. And moving forward throughout the season, I think their question is who's going to be that guy for them. I don't think Lazard played yesterday.
He didn't. He didn't
play yesterday. So, I mean, moving forward, Randall Cobb, Sammy Watkins, maybe this kid Christian Watson comes along. I mean, who's going to be that guy to make plays for them? That's going to be the question for them.
It's going to be a process.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be a process. But I think this can look similar to like the 2019 Patriots for Tom. And it was, you could tell it was a frustrating year for him. He didn't have a lot of talent at the wide receiver position. Very makeshift type of offense. He still ended up with obviously a solid stat line. I think he went 3,000 yards, 25 touchdowns. But the offense just wasn't supremely explosive or effective like it had been in years past. And obviously nothing like what he's working with up in Tampa Bay right now. So this could be a tough year, but this is going to test Aaron's leadership and his rapport with his team, and if he's able to kind of get the most of them. So it's going to be a bumpy road, but honestly, it wasn't anything that I didn't expect. You talk about Christian Watson dropping balls. What was the biggest knocks? What was one of the biggest knocks on him coming out of the draft?
His hands.
It's not like he don't have an athletic profile. He's a tall kid. He's actually very, not just fast. He's actually very agile, and he has wiggle, and he could do a lot. And you could use him in a lot of different ways. He just has a problem with focus drops. So maybe it gets better, maybe it doesn't. Hopefully it does. We'll see Aaron Rodgers kind of look like his old self and put up some of his normal, regular numbers.
All right. I'm gonna give you Chargers Raiders. This is a game the Chargers came out on top 24-19. Another fairly entertaining game between two divisional foes, and you're gonna see them battle it out again this year. But what did you come away with from this game?
That the Chargers are talented, but they're not that much better than the Raiders. They're not that much better than anybody. And I can't even say that they're better. I think that, I have them losing on Thursday, but there's not a big difference between them and the Raiders. I think that they have talent, obviously, more talent at certain positions, but when you watch the game, it was never a point to where you man, the Chargers are running away with this thing. The Raiders were always in the game. But the Raiders played very sloppy. And one thing that I think has hurt a lot of these teams it's hurt a lot of these teams week one is that a lot of these guys haven't played in the preseason. And Derek Carr and this offensive nucleus, they didn't play in the preseason and they looked like it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, now he was able to find Devontae Adams. We know Devontae Adams went off for about 144 somewhere up in there. He went up for a good amount of yards.
10 for 141 and a tub.
Exactly, 10 for 141 and a touchdown. But they have to do a better job of opening it up, which I think Josh McDaniels will implement to open it up because they just have between Hunter Renfrow and Darren Waller, man, like this offense should be is behind schedule. Defensively, my gripe with them is that they're not special, but when you're not a special defense, you have to have a calling card. That's the rule. If you're not special, top to bottom, you have to have a calling card. Whether turnovers, whether it's rushing the passer, whether it's stopping a run, you pick one. You're going to have something that you can hang your hat on. And right now, at this point, there's nothing that we can say that we've seen that they do extremely well. So hopefully they find what their identity is defensively. They do have some talent. So that's what I'm excited to see from them. But overall, great game. For the Chargers, Justin Herbert came out looking like Justin Herbert. He was able to get the ball around a lot of his weapons. Obviously, Keenan Allen looked good, but I know he had a little injury and stuff, so we'll monitor that and see how that plays out and moving forward in the coming weeks. Offensive line looks much improved, so obviously he was getting time and getting protection, and they were able to stymie Chandler Jones and Max Crosby. On the defensive side of the ball, once again, I enjoy being proven wrong. Khalil Mack looks like he turned back the time clock, and obviously he had 3 sacks, and Joey Bosa had notch 1, and they still, they were blitzing. They had Nasir Adderley, Derwin James got a sack, and Asante Samuels Jr. got an interception. So they made some plays with their best playmakers. I think it's imperative that they get J.C. Jackson back as soon as possible to kind of sew things up. And they're going to have some teams really challenge them, some teams that have continuity and that are a lot more fluid that are going to challenge them and put them to the test. And also, I said this before the season, it's not about the talent itself. It's if the talent can stay healthy. Because remember, all the guys I've just named have injury concerns or big injury history. Joey Bosa, Khalil Mack, not so much J.C. Jackson, but definitely Derwin James.
Yeah, and real quick on Khalil Mack, obviously he just came over from my Bears. I know you probably looked at him in the couple seasons he was with the Bears. It was kind of up and down. I think a lot of the in the down years the numbers were down, partly because of injury,
right.
And I also think too because he drew a lot of attention for other guys. He made it possible for Leonard Floyd when he was there to flash. He made it possible for an Akeem Hicks to flash. He drew a lot of attention for some of the other guys. And even last year, he went out early last year. I think he went out in week 6 and we lost him for the season. But through the first 5 weeks of the season, he had 5 sacks before he went out. So I think the talent's still there. And then you pair him with a Joey Bosa. Easy.
Lord help us.
Yeah. Right. So. I think the Chargers look fairly impressive, but I like the analogy you used. I think one less turnover here, a catch there, and there is just that slight of a difference between the Raiders and the Chargers.
Yeah.
Who you got for me?
Let's do.
I think we got 3 games left. I'll tell you what. I'll take the Ravens and Jets, and then no, we got 4 games left. Okay.
Well,
I'll take the I'll take the Ravens and Jets.
Go to Ravens and Jets.
You take the Monday night game, then I can take my Bears, and you can take your Cowboys.
Let's do it.
All right, so I'm gonna do Ravens and Jets. Ravens did come out on top in this game, 24-9. Lamar Jackson. So you look at his numbers. He threw for 213. 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. That it doesn't look extremely great to you, but watching this game, he made a few really great passes from the pocket. And one of the things that I took from this game was that this was a game where you can actually say he won it in the pocket because he only rushed the ball 6 times, and that was for 17 yards. But you can really see in this game that a lot of times, even when he moved in the pocket, he kind of made a little more of a concerted effort to hang in there and try to get the ball out to his guys. I think he caught Devin Duvernay twice for touchdowns. He caught Devin Duvernay twice for touchdowns, and then he caught Bateman for a long one as well. So I think that's something to be encouraged about if you're a Baltimore Ravens fan. Obviously, I think you're going to get a really, really motivated Lamar Jackson this season, seeing how they weren't able to work out a contract before the season started. So I think you're going to get a really, really motivated Lamar Jackson. Hopefully he stays on his feet and makes it through the complete season healthy and gets his money, because I'm all about guys getting their money. But yeah, I think if you are a Ravens fan, you have to be encouraged from what you've seen from Lamar Jackson. On the other side, I mean, Zach Wilson didn't play, so they ended up starting Joe Flacco. Numbers look better than he really played. You know, he kind of got some garbage time numbers, so he ended up with 307 passing with a TD and an interception. He threw the ball 59 times. So that should let you know right there. If you got Joe Flacco slinging the ball 59 times, you're probably not doing too well. Okay, you probably got some things going on offensively. I mean, obviously, you know, this Jets team, they're still in a rebuild. I was excited to see Bryce Hall, the rookie, in his offense. He didn't do too much yesterday, but I was excited to see him. I think he only rushed for about 23 yards. He did catch a few balls. He had 6 receptions for 38 yards. I was excited to see him in his offense yesterday and see where he goes from there. Obviously, for the Jets, man, they're trying to get Zach Wilson back, and they're really just trying to see if he can be the quarterback of the future. I said cornerback because I was looking at Sauce Gardner and I was looking at his numbers. He didn't do too much, but another guy they have to be excited about. I think I told you this before. I thought that the Jets had the best draft team in the NFL. So
all their guys flashed.
They did. So I mean, I think that, you know, for them, they just want to continue to attempt to get better and better every week. You know, the expectations aren't extremely high for them, but I think they just kind of like the Detroit Lions last year. I think you just want to see this team headed in the right direction.
I agree. Yeah, like I said, and questions about Zach Wilson, when he'll come back. I will throw this in about the Ravens. They got to figure out what the hell they're going to do on that offensive line. They lost Ronnie Stanley again, and then Jawan James it was the back. He tore his Achilles for a second straight year, I think. So you know, you got that. That's going to be big, especially they're playing Miami next week. And then also I do have questions about what that offense can be, because even though Lamar made some good passes, it looked very simplistic in his approach. The route concepts weren't unique, and it wasn't creative. So if they play against some good teams down the stretch that are ready for that, you know, it could put them in a bad spot. So hopefully they kind of get things, they evolve from what they did this week.
Where the game Monday night, Seahawks Broncos, where the Seahawks, and I think rather surprisingly, the Seahawks pulled it out, came out on top 17-16. Few things to kind of make you raise an eyebrow in this game. But what did you come away with?
Well, the big thing about this game is, and I mentioned it earlier, is coaching. Just let's look at both sides of the house.
Real quick, not to cut you off, bro. You 4 from 5, you got to go for that.
You have to. But when you just looked at Denver as a whole offensively, it was almost kind of like, what the fuck are they doing? You know, you have all these players, and you're not able to get any of them involved. And you got who some would consider one of the best quarterbacks in the league, and Russell Wilson, and you're not able to get any semblance of offense going. One thing Shannon Sharp kept saying that I agree on: why do you keep going away from Javonte Williams? Let him run the football. Let him wear defensive down a little bit. But They want to keep switching Melvin Gordon, Javonte Williams, Melvin Gordon, Javonte Williams. Everybody, I know me myself, I had a lot of doubts about Nathaniel Hackett and what he could be for this team as a year one coach. So there were definitely some doubts there, and I think that they're warranted. But if you look at Denver as a whole on both sides of the ball, they didn't play up to their potential. Defensively, I mean, granted, you could say Bradley Chubb handled his business. Randy Gregory was invisible. Surtain, okay. He allowed a few catches, had some penalties. Justin Simmons struggled a little bit, and surprising because he's one of the better safeties in the game. Mm-hmm. So it was just a tough outing for a good team, but it just showed. And once again, this is week one for everybody, but they just look very, very sloppy, and they're going to have to tie some things up. But you're right. You don't pay a quarterback that amount of money for 4th and 5. First of all, you let 20 seconds run down, and then you do
like
all that.
Almost 40, bro. It was like 34, like a lot of time run down.
And then you let your kicker not kick a 54-yarder, not a 44-yarder, not a 58-yarder, a 64-yarder. And I never forget it. Before they even put the measurement out there, I said, "Bro, that's like 63 yards," and it came out 64 yards. So that was bad coaching.
That would have been the second longest kick in NFL history if he would have made it.
That's ridiculous. Once again, absolutely ridiculous. Now on Seattle side, man, Pete Carroll can coach, and I have to always remind people about that. And not only can he coach, if you look at his history, even in Seattle, Pete Carroll specializes in taking low-round draft picks and cast-offs and making them a good football team and rallying those guys. He has a history of it. His Super Bowl team was nothing but that. Was cast-offs and guys that were drafted later, and this is what he does. Now, I'm not saying they're going to win another Super Bowl. No, I'm not saying that. But he's able to get the most. Kind of like a Mike Shanahan. Mike Shanahan was like that. He can get a lot of undrafted guys and rally them up and make them be good. That's Pete Carroll has that talent as well. And as far as Geno Smith, man, a guy I was critical of for years, man, I was so proud of him. Not even just as a quarterback, but as a man. He looks mature. He looks sharp. He looks like he gets it. He looks like a leader. He looks very confident. And you not only saw it in his play up. When I look at quarterbacks, I'm big on stature. Just the way he was carrying himself. He carried himself like a leader of a football team. So I was really impressed by his presence and his play on the football field. And shit, hopefully he can keep it up. But overall, I'll say this before we move on. Denver was clearly the more talented team, but Seattle was ready for this game. Most of these guys played in the preseason, and Denver thought they were just going to strut on the field with talented players and nice uniforms, and they thought shit was going to be sweet. And they went ahead. They went to Seattle. You got the 12th man there, and they got smacked around.
Real quick, man, before we move on, and I'm gonna tackle my Bears, this Bears-Niners game real quick. Obviously, they're in a very talented AFC West. On a scale of 1 to 10, after seeing them yesterday, what would be your stress level on the Denver Broncos?
Okay, I'm gonna say between. Is a level between 1 and 10?
Yes.
I'm gonna say a 5, and it's because you have a rookie head coach, you have a quarterback that has more freedom than he's ever had in his career, and you don't have a foundation of winning yet. Yeah. So once again, Sean McVay and the Rams can put up a goose egg in week 1, and I'll be like, all right, they'll figure it out. They just had a bad day at the office.
Right.
They're a team that's really still very much so trying to put everything together to become a championship team. So a lot of question marks, and once again, we don't know what Nathaniel Hackett is as a coach.
True. All right, I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna jump on my this Bears 49ers game. Obviously, my Bears came out on top.
Ugly. 10, ugliest game
It was an ugly game. The conditions in Chicago for this game were crazy. It was like a monsoon.
Mhm.
I mean, the rain, the field conditions. There were a few guys saying that the field conditions were the actual field conditions might have been some of the worst that they ever played in. Like the types of puddles that were coming up from the field as you were making your steps and your movements was crazy. So it was a really ugly game. With that being said, I feel like it's hard to really get a grasp or have any sort of opinion on either one of these young quarterbacks. Um, like I said, I mean, the conditions there were terrible. These weren't the best conditions to throw the ball in. Both these quarterbacks are, mobile quarterbacks. Um, what I will say is that the Niners were up 10-0 in the middle of the third quarter, and the Bears, the defense was able to step up, get a turnover. I think probably the biggest play in this game was a play from Justin Fields where he probably should have been sacked, but he was able to spin out of it and he got on the move. And I've been saying this for a while. I think Justin Fields is best kind of when he's on the move. I think you kind of got to get him out of the pocket and get him on the move. And
He gets
he's
very
able to
creative.
He
Very
does,
creative.
man. He's able to make some really solid throws on the move. And he ended up finding Pettis for, I think, a 55-yard touchdown. And I think that was a bit of a momentum swing. Eddie Jackson ended up getting an interception, and they scored again. And that's really what it was, man. So I have to give credit to the Bears for really fighting back, especially with this offense and how devoid of talent they are. To be down 10-0 in those conditions against a pretty solid defensive team in the 49ers, and to be able to find a way in those conditions to come out with a win. I got to give credit to my Bears. As for the 49ers, I mean, for them, it's the same question that we had coming into the season, which is, can Trey Lance get this team where they need to be? Because I think not only do they have a playoff roster, I think they're talented enough. I think they have a Super Bowl roster.
They do.
So with that being said, it makes me think I'm not sure how long, because of the talent on this roster, I'm not sure how long they're gonna test out this Trey Lance thing. If they get into, week 5, week 6, and it's not looking too good, they look up there a game under 500 or something, I wouldn't be surprised if you see them throw Garoppolo back in there, because, I mean, you can't play around with these type of windows, and they definitely have, like we said, a Super Bowl caliber roster. So that'll be my thing for them moving forward, just to see, okay, I'm going to kind of give them a little bit of a pass on this past week's game because of the conditions. His accuracy has always been an issue, and he didn't throw the ball very well in these conditions. So I'm gonna give him a little bit of the pass, but I'm gonna be keeping my eye on him moving forward to see just what they got there and if he can possibly get this team where they're trying to be.
And I will say this: I think a lot of that leash is going to hinge on how that division is looking right now. I mean, you got Seattle at number 1. Who I don't think anybody believes they're going to hold down that spot. But if it starts getting,
they're the only team that got to win in that division.
They are. So if it starts getting heavy, and you see the Rams jump out and win 2 to 3 games, and the 49ers are still losing, that's when I think the pressure will come on, and they'll think about making a switch. So yeah, I agree with everything that you said. Oh, and I will say this about your Bears, and I've been telling people this all off season. Matt Eberflus is an absolute culture builder. And granted, you got to give Frank Reich credit too, but Matt Eberflus, the Colts aren't the Colts without Matt Eberflus. He was a big, humongous reason why they turned into a tough, because remember, the Colts were always a finesse team for the most part.
Yeah.
But he's a reason why they became a tough, blue-collar, smash-you-in-the-mouth type of team. And he built that defense up to what it is now. So
And I was a little critical of the hire. Nothing against Matt Eberflus, but I just felt like the
you wanted
future
an
of this
offensive guy.
team. Yeah, I just felt like the future of this team hinged so much on Justin Fields' development that I would have liked to have seen him go after an offensive guy. But I mean, with that being said, hey, we'll see what happens, man. This is a win that I didn't expect us to get, but we did.
Mhm.
And now all of a sudden we got a Green Bay Packer team coming up next week that didn't
That
look
y'all
so
can't. Yeah,
that so I
that's
mean
beatable.
that very much so. So hey, we'll see what happens, man. I think last but not least, I think we get through them all. I think last but not least, we got to talk about your Cowboys against these Buccaneers. Sunday night game. Buccaneers came out on top 19-3. One of the most exciting game. It wasn't as great as it was built up to be. I think obviously the big story coming out of this game is that Dak Prescott did have a thumb injury, and now kind of conflicting reports. One report said 6 to 8 weeks. Then Jerry Jones came this morning and said he thinks it'll be closer to 4 weeks. So with that being said, I mean,
Mhm.
what did you come away with from this game, man? Give it to me.
Uh,
The Cowboy fan.
Now, was I disappointed? Yes, but was I surprised? No, because I think what is one, Kellen Moore has carried over. Let's look at from an offensive standpoint. Kellen Moore has carried over a lot of the same play calling issues that he had last year. You're putting together a good drive. You're actually getting a running game with Pollard, and the quick passing game is working. And then out of nowhere, you run a reverse. uh, you run a trick play reverse against a very good disciplined defense, with veteran, with nice veteran talent. It's little stuff like that, inconsistency on the play, play calling. I think a lot of things worked in tandem for them to be so ineffective offensively. One, you gotta give credit. The Buccaneers defensively were great. We're not gonna take anything away from them. Um, but Dallas definitely didn't make things any easier. They clearly had protection issues, mainly at left guard. Connor McGovern got hurt, so they had to go with Matt Forniak. And then you had obviously the rookie Tyler Smith starting at left tackle, who, in my opinion, did the best he could do. He didn't allow any sacks; he allowed some pressures, but to me, it was definitely something that he can build on. But inconsistency in play calling. I think I said this about 2 to 3 other teams. Teams have to stop sitting their starters for the whole preseason. And Dak Prescott looked like he hadn't played all preseason, and it's you can pull it off.
And you only got 3 games now because they give you a bye week in the preseason. So now you only got 3 games.
Exactly. And here's the thing: you can pull it off when you have those established, talented players. But this is a different Cowboys team. You don't have Amari Cooper, who him and Dak had a very great connection. CeeDee Lamb is stepping into a new role, and Michael Gallup is coming off an injury. And you don't get any real game time with these guys that you have. Dennis Houston, Noah Brown, you know, Simi Fehoko, right? Mm-hmm. So it looked rough. Dak was definitely off. Protection was bad. Play calling was terrible. Just a lot of inconsistency on the offensive side of the ball, and unfortunately now Dak Prescott's hurt. Now I will say this, man. Time and time again, what Dan Quinn has done with this Dallas defense is phenomenal. They were probably one of, if not the worst defense in the league. Just 2.5, 3 years ago, they fired Mike Nolan after 1 year of being a defensive coordinator. But now, you really watch it. Tom actually didn't have a great game. They had the one.
I think this year you might see them as a top minimum top 10 defense this year. Cowboys.
Well, they were. Here's the thing: they were top 8 last year. So now you have to say, do they take a jump forward? Micah definitely looks more dialed in, and then everybody else is playing a little bit more cohesive. So they made a lot of stops, and this could have been a blowout, but they were holding routinely, even with a short field. They were holding Tampa Bay to 3 yard, to 3 points, kicking field goals, and they only scored that one touchdown. So I'm impressed with what they're doing defensively. Dan Quinn looks like he gets it. He looks like he's going to be somebody's head coach here pretty soon. I know he was in a running to be the Bears head coach, but I think what this team's going to have to dig deep, and they're going to have to develop an identity for what they want to do on the offensive side of the ball. To me, you have, we just talk about Zeke and Tony Pollard. You have 3 good running backs that I think you can build a solid running game through: Zeke, Pollard, Rico Dowdle. That's where your focus needs to be. Get the quick passing game going. But outside of that, that is ultimately what hurt them the most. On Tampa Bay side, obviously, this is what I say about Tampa Bay offensively. They don't get better or worse. They just shapeshift. So they went from being a lot more of a possession receiving team. They had Gronk, they had OJ Howard, they had Chris Godwin and Mike Evans, and the offense was a lot more simplistic. They had Ronald Jones and Leonard Fournette, but now it's a lot different. Now it's more spread out. We're going to spread the defense out, and we're going to run the football up the middle with Leonard Fournette. You got Julio Jones, Russell Gage, Chris Godwin came back. So it's a lot more spread out, and they were a little bit more creativity than what we've seen in years past. They did doing some reverse and some things with Julio Jones. So they definitely look good in that standpoint. And they did what they were supposed to do. It wasn't pretty, but they did what they had to do to win the football game. And ultimately, that's what good offenses do, and that's why Tom's the best. Tom is the.
I was going to say that's a staple of Tom Brady. Even when he's not at his best, he's going to do that. He's not going to make a ton of mistakes. He's not really going to hurt himself. He's going to do what he can and win the game.
Exactly. And defensively, I'll leave it at this. Todd Bowles said this. He said this might be the deepest defense that we've had since I've been here in Tampa Bay. And there are some of them saying that they think that this defense can be better, even better than the 2020 unit that won the Super Bowl. That's how much they believe in this unit.
And they got names. If you just look at the roster defensively, they have names all up and down. So
all up and down, right? So it was a fun, as a football fan, it was a fun defensive game to watch. And the outcome didn't surprise me. I just would have liked to seen a little bit more on the offensively from Dallas.
I feel you. I think it's going to be interesting for them moving forward now that they're going to be turning to Cooper Rush. I don't think. Well, first of all, when he came in the game the other day, he didn't look terrible.
No.
With that being said, I mean, now we're talking about a guy who's kind of been in the system for a couple of years. So, I mean, you even more so than getting some big name, high price backup, I think you rather prefer that. So, not to give it away, but I think moving forward, and I think they got Cincinnati this week. I think that game's going to be closer than you think.
Oh, I think it's I'll be honest. We're going to go through our predictions. Even though Cincinnati has the higher ceiling, based off of, I think that's a very winnable game for Dallas.
It is.
It's very winnable, yeah. But this is going to be the defense is going to have to play to their potential.
Yeah. All right. And speaking of predictions,
let's go through them.
Go ahead and jump on them. I'll tell you what, I'm just gonna read down the list. I'm gonna start from the Thursday game, and then I'm gonna just read down this list here, and you and I both can just quickly give who we're picking, and maybe throw a score out there.
Okay, sure.
That works.
Let's do it.
All right. So Thursday night game, Chargers Chiefs. Who you got?
Oh, I got the Chiefs.
I agree. I'm
too experienced, too explosive, too confident, and they didn't look anywhere near as sloppy as the Chargers looked the other day.
I agree. I'm gonna go Chiefs, and crazy enough, I think they'll win it by a touchdown. I'm gonna go Chiefs. I'll say 31-21 Chiefs.
Okay.
Let's see here. Let's do Patriots at the Steelers.
This is a tough one. Because there's so much inconsistency on the offensive side of the ball for the Patriots, I'm gonna go with the Steelers because they still have a buffet of defensive pieces. That can be frustrating, but I think it's gonna be a low-scoring game. So I could see this. I could see this being similar to what the Dallas game was, like 20-10 or 20-7.
Yeah, I agree. I'm going Steelers too. Another low scoring game. I'm gonna say 17-9 Steelers. They'll feel the loss of TJ Watt, but I think what New England has going on offensively is a mess. And I think you're gonna see more struggles there. So yeah, I'm gonna say 17-9 Steelers. Panthers at the Giants. Another interesting game. Panthers at the Giants. What you think?
Oh, I got the Panthers in this one. They really should have beat Cleveland.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I think will pay off for them is the Giants don't have anywhere near the offensive line that Cleveland has. So you're dealing with a completely different animal. And the Giants have some protection issues. Don't forget, they beat Tennessee, but in that game without Harold Landry, they sacked Daniel Jones 5 times. And this Carolina bunch is very capable of doing that, right? Doing that and maybe even more. I'm a big fan of Brian Burns, so I think Carolina wins this game. I think they get a little bit more fluidity offensively. Christian McCaffrey probably gets going in this game, so I could see him going for about 80 rushing yards, 30 to 50 receiving yards. So I'm gonna go Carolina. I'm gonna go Carolina 21-10.
Okay. Once again, we agree. I think Carolina wins this game. I think you see Baker Mayfield kind of calm down, and I think you see him have a solid game, somewhere around 230, 240 passing, 2 or 3 touchdowns. I agree with you. I think McCaffrey gets somewhere around 150 total all-purpose yards or whatnot. And yeah, I think it'll be a close one though, because I think we're gonna see a little more of what Saquon Barkley did Sunday to the Tennessee Titans, and I think they're gonna kind of ride that. So I think it'll be a little closer, but I'm gonna give this game to the Panthers. I think they hold on to this one down the stretch. I'm gonna give them a win by a field goal. I'll say 26-23 Panthers. The Jets at the Cleveland Browns. Jets at the Cleveland Browns.
I'm gonna take a flyer on this one. I'm gonna go Jets. And the reason why I say that is because you looked at the Jets when they were playing Baltimore, and one thing that I was impressed by is they didn't let Baltimore really get a consistent running game going. So this isn't me saying that they're going to go to Cleveland and shut Nick Chubb down or anything, but I think that they're good enough to slow this running game down. And if you put Jacoby Brissett into a position where he's going to have to win the game, let's be honest, they just defended. They just had to play Lamar Jackson for 4 quarters. You think they're scared to go up against a Jacoby Brissett? No.
All right, true.
And for a large chunks of that game, that it was competitive. That wasn't a game where Baltimore went in there and just steamrolled them. It was competitive for a good amount of time. So I'm going to go with the Jets just because some limitations at the quarterback position. And I think that they do have talent on defense and in their front seven that this thing doesn't get out of hand. So I'm going to go Jets 17-14.
I think this will be a close game, maybe deep into the third quarter. I think it'll be a low-scoring game, maybe deep into the third quarter. But I think the Browns' defense will kind of show their will. I think Myles Garrett gets another 2 or 3 sacks in this game. And I think some of the guys they got on defense really just pulled through and carried them. They'll run the ball. I think Nick Chubb is successful running the ball again. And I think the Cleveland Browns win an ugly one and another low-scoring one. I'm gonna go 17-6 Cleveland Browns. Divisional game here. Colts at the Jaguars. What you think?
I'm gonna go Colts. 14-7. Just too much inconsistency from what I've seen from Jacksonville offensively. I think it's going to be a competitive game, but it's going to come down to who's the tougher team. I think Darius Leonard probably plays this week. Have to check the injury report, but if Darius Leonard plays this week, he's their enforcer. Indy clearly missed him last week, but you have him back. That's going to make life a whole hell of a lot harder. So look for it to be the Colts. Like I said, 14-7. It'd be a one-score game. Jacksonville will make it interesting, but the Colts have the experience to kind of make the lift and win the game.
And the Colts are another team with some guys on defense, with some names on defense. I agree with you. I do think the Colts pulled this one out. I think both teams have a better showing than they did in week 1. I do think Doug Peterson will have Jacksonville kind of clean some things up. So I think they will have a better showing. But I just think that at this point, the Colts are the better team. And I think that's why they'll pull it out. So I'm gonna go Colts here. I'm gonna say Colts by a field goal. I'm gonna say 23 by 2, actually. Let's say 23-21 Colts. I think they pulled this one out. Interesting game. Dolphins at the Ravens in Baltimore. Dolphins at the Ravens. Who you got?
I got Miami. And the reason why I got Miami is because those losses on the offensive line that's gonna be substantial in a game like this. Not only is Lamar Jackson gonna be playing against a much better front seven this week, he's gonna be playing against a much better secondary. Xavier will pick you off. We already know that. Javon Holland is coming. He is slowly becoming one of the better safeties in this league, and he's only in year 2. They got weapons all around. They still got Jerome Baker at linebacker. But I mentioned earlier that pass rushing trio of Jalen, of Melvin, and of Emmanuel Ogbah. And that it's dangerous. And they still got Christian Wilkins on the inside, right? And he's a pretty damn good defensive tackle on his own right. So I got Miami 20-10. Well, I think it'll be pretty competitive. You know what? Let me go ahead and switch that up. 20-17. I'm not going to sell Lamar short. I think he'll definitely make it competitive, but I feel like their front seven can be disruptive enough. And I could see Lamar Jackson turning the ball over a couple times, to maybe 2 interceptions.
You said 2017 Miami?
2017 Miami.
All right. I'm going to go the opposite way here. I'm going to go with the Ravens. I think that this is a game where you see Lamar Jackson winning with his feet. Don't be surprised if he has, between 15 or 20 carries and he has, over 100 yards rushing, maybe about, 180 to 200 yards passing. I think this is going to be a low-scoring game, actually. But Ravens at home, I think Lamar finds a way to pull this one out. They go to 2-0. I'm going to go Ravens. I think I'm going to go 2017 Ravens. I think you went 2017 Miami. I'm going to go 2017 Ravens at home.
Okay.
Tampa Bay at New Orleans, another divisional game. We know how they struggle with this team. Tampa Bay at New Orleans.
We want to say Tampa, but once again, we know the real estate that New Orleans has in these guys' minds. Only thing I can say is maybe Sean Payton's gone. Maybe that plays so much of a factor. I think I'm gonna go with the Buccaneers, just because of how sloppy the Saints look. They can't play that type of game against. No, they can't. They can't. They play that type of game, they'll lose. And Tampa Bay's built a little bit differently, where I think they can combat some of the things that the Saints do from a defensive standpoint. They lost Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, who is a big loss. And you probably saw a little bit of that affect how they were playing against Atlanta as well. So,
and they had just picked him up a couple weeks ago, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Who?
Gardner-Johnson.
He's in Philly now.
Oh, you're right.
They just traded
him a couple weeks ago.
They traded him to Philly. Yeah, so very, very substantial loss for them. I'm gonna go Tampa Bay. I think this will be a pretty good scoring affair. I'm gonna go 30-17. Right? I think the Saints, they may start out slow again, but I think Tampa Bay is talented enough. And I'll tell you this: he's proven me wrong. If Leonard Fournette can keep running the football like that, then he may have him a little Pro Bowl season. Who knows? But they got some stuff working for them on offense.
I've been a Leonard Fournette fan. I think he didn't necessarily get a lot of credit, or he didn't get a fair shake in Jacksonville. I really think he's a talented back. With that being said, I think the Buccaneers cleaned some things up, and this may shock you. I think the Buccaneers go into New Orleans and lay a smackdown on the Saints. I think this is going to be, I think they're going to put together a total team effort. I'm going to go 31-10 Tampa Bay. I think they go in there. I think Tom has a good game. I think the defense has a phenomenal game. And I'm going to go 31-10 Tampa Bay.
Very possible.
Another interesting game. Washington Commanders at the Detroit Lions. Washington Commanders at the Detroit Lions. Who we got?
I got the Lions. And it's not because of Commanders being the same. It's just because looking at where the Lions fell short, to tell you the truth, they just played a team that matched up too well with them. Philly's a run first team. But with Washington, you're not going to get that. Antonio Gibson's good, but he's not a guy that you're going to give. You're not going to take Antonio Gibson and jam him down the defense's throat. He's more of a well-rounded, balanced type of a back. They have offensive line issues. I think that Detroit's front seven is getting better and better. This could be the week where you possibly see Aiden Hutchinson break out. He's pretty quiet last week. Charles Harris is a factor. And then obviously we know this kid Rodriguez that they have at linebacker is pretty damn good. So this will be one that I think that they squeak by. It'll be very damn competitive. I'm thinking somewhere along the lines of 21-24. But I do believe that Detroit will run the football very well. And they're going to challenge that Washington front seven, that front. I'm going to say front three because Chase Young is still on PUP. They're going to really challenge them and move some guys around. But they have the guys up front, offensive line, Ragnow, Penei Sewell, Taylor Decker. They have the bodies to do that. So I'm going to go Detroit 24-21.
I'm really interested to see if they kind of open things up for Carson Wentz again and he gets up into those 40 pass attempts or so in this game. This is a really, really, really tough pick for me. But you know what? Just to play devil's advocate, I'm going to go with the Commanders. I say they go to 2-0. I'm going to go Commanders. I'm going to say 28-24 Commanders. 28-24 Commanders, just to play devil's advocate. The Seahawks at the 49ers. Seahawks at the 49ers.
I got Seattle. And it's not because
Gino the one you over?
It's not even Gino. Yes. I'm more confident in Gino, who not only, by the way, can we throw this out? Gino was playing actually solid ball last year in Russell Wilson's absence when he had that hand injury. So he's just picking back up where he left off at. I have more question marks about Trey level about Gino, who's obviously older. But that'll be the reason why I think Seattle wins. Is because Trey Lance, this is going to be a game. I could see Trey Lance having quite a few turnovers in this game. Kyle Shanahan's going to do everything in his power, but Seattle is going to be a feisty team. They're going to fight them tooth and nail, and I think that they edge the Niners out in this one. I'm going to go like 19-16. I think it's going to be an ugly game. You may see Seattle get some things. They're going to have to run the ball a lot. By the way, you know I'm a big Rashad Penny fan, and I think he's starting to figure things out for himself. So it's going to be a fun game to watch. But like I said, 19-16, and Trey Lance throws to 2 to 3 picks. That could possibly be the deal breaker and lose them that game.
I think the Seahawks yesterday were running high off emotions and adrenaline with Russell Wilson coming back. They had a Monday night opener at home and went out there and they played their tails off. I give them credit where it's due. However, going to San Francisco and what I would assume would be much better football conditions than what San Francisco played in week 1 against the Bears. I think Seattle comes back down to earth. I think, although I still have those same questions about Trey Lance, I think Shanahan comes up with a plan where they won't necessarily have to depend so much on him. I think you see him really scheme up some things and really be successful in the run game.
By the way, Elijah Mitchell's hurt. Just throw that out there.
Well.
So they lost another running back.
As we know, San Francisco just puts running backs in there, and they all are successful. You know what I'm saying? When was that? I think that was 2 years ago. They had four running backs who had a 100-yard game in the season. 4 different running backs had a 100-yard game in the season. You know?
I get that.
So I mean, the way they scheme things up, he'll find somebody in there. They'll get Deebo Samuel some runs. And I think the Niners win this one. I'm going to go 27-10 49ers. I think the Niners win this one. Here's another, I think, a little easier for us both to pick. Atlanta Falcons at the LA Rams.
I got the
Rams.
I got the Rams. I don't think it'll be a blowout, but I think that they'll win by 10 or more points. So I could see 30-17. Atlanta's not going to lay down for them. I could see Cordell Patterson having another good game. Kyle Pitts or Drake London may go alive, and we know Marcus Mariota is going to do some things with his feet. So look for some parity, or not parity. Look for some turnovers or some exciting stuff in the first half. But the Rams are just too talented to let it stay that way. Once again, 30-17. I see them pulling away somewhere in the third quarter and just kind of putting their foot on the gas and not stopping.
I agree. The Rams are just a far better team. I think Sean McVay cleaned some things up from Thursday night. Now they've had 7, 8, 9, 10 days to prepare for this game. If I was a betting man, this is probably the most for sure lock of all the games. I'm going the Rams here. I'm gonna say 30-10 Rams. I think they come out. They look much better than they did Thursday night. They win this game. Arizona Cardinals at Las Vegas Raiders.
I got the Raiders. Better quarterback, better weapons. I could argue that they have the slightly better defense. This is gonna be tough for the Cardinals to really come in and win this one. They don't have a soul that's gonna. Devontae Adams is gonna do. You thought he did whatever the hell he wanted to do the other night. He's gonna do whatever the fuck he wants to do against the Cardinals. And they don't have the pass rush to even threaten him that way, right? At least the Chargers had Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa. So, I think it's gonna be the Raiders, and I think this one will be pretty convincing. We keep throwing out 30. I'll be modest. I'm gonna say 28-6. But you know what? I'll give them a touchdown, 28-7. But I think it's going to be one where you see the Raiders kind of get a little bit more consistency, maybe get that running game going. And I think Kyler Murray will struggle again. He'll move around and run around, do some things with his feet, but look for some turnovers and definitely look for some sacks this game from Max Crosby and Chandler Jones. So, 28-7.
I was just going to say, I think Kyler Murray, he looks a little bit better this week. I think, to your point, I think he does move around, makes a few plays with his feet. However, I'm with you. I think the Raiders clean some things up. I think David Carr kind of comes down on the turnovers. Devontae Adams once again has his way, and I'm gonna go with the Raiders too. A little closer than you. I'm gonna go 28-20 Raiders.
Okay, fair enough.
The Texans at Denver. What you think?
I want to say Denver. I really do. But they just didn't look like a tough team last night. But you know what? I'll say this. Their defense will clean things up. Offense may still be a work in progress.
Bradley Chubb did get 2 sacks. He looked all right. He did get 2 sacks.
He did. So I'll rock with the Broncos 24-10. They still have some. They're still trying to get some things together offensively, but I think the defense will do their job. They're not once again the Texans will fight them. That's one thing we do know about this team is they will fight. And they're gonna punch him in the mouth a couple of times. They're gonna hit Russ. They're gonna make some surprising stops on defense, but ultimately that talent will rear its head. So Broncos 24-10.
I'm with you. I'm going to go with the Broncos here as well. I think Russell Wilson looks a little more in sync with his receivers. The numbers, he may not get, the 300 yards again. The numbers may not show it, but just to the eye test, I think he'll look a lot better, and they as an offense will look a lot better than they did Monday night. I think he spreads the ball around, gets a lot of guys involved. I'm going to go with the Broncos. I'm going to say 30-19 Broncos. I think the Texans hang in there. They do, fight, make it tough. I think fourth quarter, the Broncos get another score and really kind of pull away. I'm going to say 30-19 Broncos. All right, to your team, Bengals, Cincinnati Bengals in Dallas. Cincinnati Bengals in Dallas. Who you got?
So the football fan in me is going to take Cincinnati, just because they have a generational talent, even though Dallas does. But Cincinnati has a generational talent that I could say can be a major difference maker, and I just feel like Jamar Chase will make that one play that wins them the game. That one or two plays that wins them the game. He'll make that spectacular catch. He'll do some otherworldly shit that's going to win them that game. So I'm going to go Cincinnati. Dallas is going to fight them. There's going to be turnovers. They're going to get to Joe Burrow. Maybe close to the amount that Pittsburgh did, because Dallas has a buffet of pass rushers as well. So yeah, but I see them winning it. It's not going to be a big. I don't see it being a big gap. I'm looking at 21-14. Dallas will try his best to hang on, but I mean, obviously, you're asking a lot from Cooper Rush. He's having Trey Hendrickson and Sam Hubbard in his face, and you're asking him to kind of get things going with. Yeah, but I think you'll see one or two of the running backs. You'll see Zeke or Pollard rush over 100 yards. So the running game will get going a little bit more this week. But once again, very close game, 21-14, Cincinnati.
I'm gonna go with the Bengals as well. I do think the Cowboys. I do think that pass rush is successful against Cincinnati, and for that reason, that's why I think this game will be close going into the fourth quarter. But I think Cincinnati gets a score in the fourth quarter to kind of create some distance and maybe the score may look like more of a blowout than it really was. So I'm going to go Cincinnati. You know what? I'm going to go Cincinnati. I'm going to say 31-17, but in a closer game than it looks. I'm going to say Cincinnati 31-17.
I don't know if they're going to put 31 points up on this defense. Then maybe they get an interception or something. I don't know if they're going to put 31 points up on this defense.
We'll see. We'll see. I think they get a couple scores in the fourth quarter, kind of pull away. Let's go to my team. Sunday night game. We got the Chicago Bears at the Green Bay Packers. Bears at the Green Bay Packers Sunday night.
I'm going to go with the Packers, not because I believe in their offense, but because I believe in their defense and what they can be. They was very, very, very uncharacteristically bad last week against Minnesota. Mm-hmm. I think this week they'll kind of tie things up. They have great pieces. They'll put Jair Alexander on Darnell Mooney, and that front seven is strong enough with Rashawn Gary, and I know they just drafted a kid out of Georgia in the first round, and Kenny Clark, right, who's my cousin, but he's not really my cousin. We just got the same last name.
See what you did there.
No, but I really do. I think that Green Bay defense will simmer down, and they'll make things. They'll be able to be the difference of what wins that game. So it'll be back and forth, but it's going to be eerily similar to what they lost last week. I'm going to go 21-7. I think I just have so many questions about what you guys can do offensively in that passing game.
First of all, let me say that I picked against the Bears this past Sunday. I thought the Niners
Keep doing it
and get a win. With that being said, let me give a disclaimer that this may totally be a biased homer pick. Let me give that disclaimer. With that being said, I'm going with my Bears, man. I think our secondary is up and coming. Jalen Johnson is coming along. He forced a fumble the other day. Eddie, obviously, we know what Eddie Jackson can do. The kid we took in the draft, the safety Jaquan Brister, who's a starter now. I really like him. I like some of the things he did in the game. I think that we find some success running the ball. I think David Montgomery finds a little success running the ball. I think that this is a low-scoring, ugly game. I will say that I do think the Packers' defense is really, really solid this year. And I think that might cause us some problems. But yeah, I think we run the ball. I think David Montgomery goes over 100 yards. I think Justin Fields makes a couple plays with his feet. I think our defense really stands tall and have another solid effort.
And what's the score
once again, this may be a biased homer pick. Low scoring game. 17-13 Bears.
Okay. Hey. I love a Cinderella story, so hey, if it happens, it happens. You know me, I love me some Matt Eberflus, so if he can
once again, my disclaimer, totally biased pick, but let's bear down. All right, last two games. Actually, I didn't know this. There's 2 Monday night games.
Monday night doubleheader.
Monday night doubleheader. So last 2 games, Tennessee Titans at the Buffalo Bills.
Buffalo.
Yeah. In a nutshell,
but Buffalo, it could possibly get ugly. I just don't believe it. I don't believe in Tennessee this year. I think that once again we discussed. We believe they'll take a step back. I think Derrick Henry will slow down just a little bit. I know we've had conversations about Derrick. I think that this is not the time in his career where he needs to be still having the same type of volume, especially after the injury he had last year. And having just rushed for 2,000 yards, I think it can really wear him down sooner rather than later. So they got to figure to get something done on that in that passing game. But I'm gonna go Buffalo, and I'm not even gonna be modest about this thing. I'm gonna go 40-20.
I'm gonna go Buffalo as well. I do think that they're gonna. I wouldn't be surprised if they try to slow this. Tennessee tries to slow this game all the way down. I wouldn't be surprised if Derrick Henry has 20-some rushes in the first half. That being said, I'm going with Buffalo too. I think they shoot out. I think it gets pretty ugly as well. I'm going to go Buffalo. I'm going to say 38-11. I don't know, 38-11. I think it gets ugly.
We both agree. Yeah, we both agree it's going to be a blowout.
Yeah. And last but not least, Monday night. I think this is a good game right here, good matchup.
It is.
Minnesota at Philadelphia. I think this is going to be a hell of a game. Who you got?
I got Minnesota just because, hell, first of all, if y'all couldn't stop, y'all struggle stopping the Lions and DeAndre Swift, you're going to have a tough time with Dalvin Cook. And I know you're a big Dalvin Cook fan. I think that's going to play a factor. And right now, to tell you the truth, Justin Jefferson just unstoppable.
Mm-hmm.
And then whoever doesn't draw him, you still got to cover Adam Thielen. And you still got Irv Smith Jr., who's a pretty solid receiver in his own right. So it's going to be a tough draw for a Philly team, a Philly defense that still hasn't quite played up to what people were saying that they are. Saying this is the team that they are. So, yeah, I think I got Minnesota on this one. And on the defensive side of the ball, now it will be a challenge for Minnesota because I don't know, and I guess I kind of question where they're at from a run stopping standpoint. But I tell you this: if they get Jalen Smith to hold on to that ball, that Daniel Hunter Zadarius Smith combo is potent. They were raising hell.
They were putting Aaron Rodgers on his ass.
Exactly. So if they are able to slow down that run and make Jalen Hurts hold or double clutch that ball, it's gonna be a long fucking day. So I got Minnesota. It'll be competitive. I'm gonna go 28-21.
Yeah, I think this is a very, very, very close game.
It'll be a fun one.
It will. If I'm being honest, everything in me wants to pick the Eagles. However, to your point, and like I said, I think I watched the majority of that Eagles Lions game.
Mm-hmm.
The Lions, they were really running all over this Eagles defense.
With pure
DeAndre Swift had his way. They got down around the goal line. They put hands on hands, and they handed it to Jamal Williams, and he was tough and physical, and he was scoring around the goal line. And for a team with a lot of talent up front, I also think Graham got nicked in that game too. For a team with a lot of talent up front, that was fairly alarming to me. And so for that reason, I think I'm going to pick the Minnesota Vikings as well. However, I think this is a really close game. I think this is a field goal game. I'm going to go 31-29 Minnesota Vikings.
Okay. That's fair enough.
Yeah, man, Detroit was you have to see. They just couldn't get a stop. I mean, it was just unfortunate that Philly was having just as much success running the ball. But
and that's what I said. Sometimes you get two teams that just match up extremely well with each other, and that's what that game was.
Yeah, they were running it down Minnesota's throat. So, yeah, man, another great episode. I think it's gonna be another really good week 2 of NFL football starting Thursday night. Good Chiefs and Chargers. Great Thursday night game.
It's gonna be fun.
Yeah. So another great week 2 coming. Break room breakdown. What we got going on?
Oh, break room breakdown. We actually had an episode. It just released today. We're on all platforms: Apple, Google, Spotify, or just Google the break room breakdown, and you'll see my face and stuff like that. Right? Yeah, pretty impressive when I tell people I can. You can Google me, but yeah, we actually broke down some of the AFC and NFC, but mainly we broke down that Thursday night game in full, and I had JD and Chris from the JD and CeeLo podcast, who we've had on Rooted in Sports before, and we had a lot of fun. A lot of great conversation, a lot of banter.
Two good guys, man.
Two characters,
man.
Absolute characters.
Y'all go check them out. This is the JD and CeeLo podcast. You can go find them on YouTube as well, man. They're legit two characters.
Yeah, hilarious sports personality. So that's the break room breakdown. Obviously, we got Rooted in Sports Community every Saturday, 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on Twitter Spaces. Gets live, gets argumentative. Especially, I know it's going to be even crazier this because guys, we're going to be recapping week 1 of the NFL and college football, which we owe you guys some college football, so be on standby for that.
We do.
And I did want to give you a quick update before we got off. With Dak Prescott's, I don't know if you know, but he had a clean fracture, and his thumb injury is less severe than Russell Wilson's last year.
I mean, I would think so, because even the initial timeline was shorter, so I would think so. And then, like I said, Jerry Jones came on. I think that was today. Jerry Jones was saying today that he's thinking maybe 4 weeks. They're not even going to put him on
IR.
On IR because he's thinking maybe 4 weeks or sooner.
Yeah. Yeah. And for anyone that doesn't know, they gave Russ 6 to 8 weeks. He only missed 3 games. So if Dak Prescott attacks his rehab and everything with the same, they're probably gonna put the plate in there and everything. If he attacks his rehab with the same aggression, it shouldn't be any reason why he shouldn't be back by by mid-October or the beginning of October, meaning Dallas would only need to win about 2 to 3 games to kind of keep them in the hunt. So it's gonna be fun to watch.
And so it'll be interesting to see how he comes back and the grip and how he's throwing the ball, because Russell Wilson had a few struggles last year. I don't know if you may equate that to that. So it'll be interesting to see how he comes back.
But remember, he had 2 fingers, so he dislocated. He had multiple dislocations in this one, and he broke his middle finger. But it's once again, it's going to be tough. It's going to be hard to watch. Hopefully my team can adjust and get something else going. Focus on defense, running game, because I don't want the season to be over. It just started, man.
Word.
Yeah.
We'll be right back here next week, same time, next Tuesday. Now we're Tuesdays now. 5:30 Pacific, 7:30 Central. We'll be right back here. Please don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube page, which once again is just Rooted in Sports. You'll see our faces, you'll see our little cartoon characters pop right up. And then please give us a follow on Instagram, and that's at Rooted in Sports. Once again, that's at Rooted in Sports. You can give us each individually a follow as well. At the letter I, Swan, SWAN 0623. And then what's your Instagram handle?
Tiberius 519.
Tiberius 5, just as it's spelled at the bottom. So at Tiberius 519, and then for me it's I, like the letter I, Swan 0623. And yeah, that's it, man. Another great episode in the books. We'll see y'all next week. Much love. God bless. Catch y'all later.
Y'all have a good one.